Hi, thank you for coming down all the way. Thanks to the organizers for having me here. Non-technical talk, just so you can refresh. I'm Ansh. I work at FOSS United. We are a non-profit organization that promotes free and open source software in India. I'm a computer science engineer. I work at the intersection of communities and sustainability in FOSS. I work as a program manager at FOSS United. I am also part of the team at FLOSS Fund. We will discuss some of these things in detail. Just to get a check on the room, does everyone here know what FOSS is? Does anyone want to know what FOSS is? Okay, sure. FOSS stands for free and open source software. There are two aspects to FOSS: free software and open source. Free software basically means software that respects the user's freedom and community around it. It came out of the free software movement by the FSF under Richard Stallman. Open source, as the word suggests, it's software where the source code is open for the people to view, edit, modify. Popular examples of FOSS could be the Linux kernel, the Firefox web browser. Just to differentiate between FOSS and FOSS United, FOSS, as I said, it stands for free and open source software. This is a smaller part of the broader knowledge commons movement, which basically advocates that knowledge should be free and accessible to everyone. FOSS United is just a small community of people who use, contribute, maintain FOSS. Let's get this out of the way. XKCD, we now know that the entire modern digital infrastructure is dependent on open source software. Very small libraries that people from distant corners of the world continue to maintain after decades. So why do we need an Indian FOSS community, right? FOSS United has completed 5 years now. It started as an experiment, as a collaboration between ERP Next and Zerodha. ERP Next is one of the most successful FOSS projects to have come out of India. Zerodha is one of the largest stockbrokers in India. ERP Next was founded in 2008 as a hobby project by Rishabh Mehta, who wanted to solve some of his own problems. He wanted an ERP system to manage his own family business. That really took off. ERP Next went on to become one of the best projects that have come out of India. They started a company around it called Frappe, which continues to be the publisher of ERP Next. In 2016, they formed the ERP Next Foundation, where the idea was, now that there is a company around this project, it should not just be driven by corporate goals. There was a foundation set up so the community can have some ownership over the project. Around the same time, they met the folks at Zerodha who were looking for a similar project. They decided to build their own systems on top of ERP Next. In early 2020, FOSS United Foundation was set up as a successor to the ERP Next Foundation, so that the goals of this organization could be broadened, sort of. We started with a small conference here in Bangalore, late 2020. 150 people showed up, but it was proved that there is a need for a platform and a community like this. This is data from GitHub. Sorry if it's not clear. This is from the Octoverse report. India continues to be the fastest growing developer population. In 2027, we are set to overtake United States and become the largest developer population on GitHub. We are now a hub of startups. There is a lot of innovation happening, but my take here is that in this pursuit of innovation, in this pursuit of earning a lot of money, in getting on Forbes, we have somehow lost that spirit of tinkering and hacking, which we all started with. We are heavy FOSS consumers. We consume a lot of open source, but we do not give back. We do not create our own projects. We do not contribute back enough. And plus, our education system is very rigid, so it does not allow for us to, hack on projects, be creative. So, like every other open source project, even FOSS United started because somebody wanted to solve their own problem. They felt that there was no platform for them to, talk about the work that they're doing. And there were small groups that existed. There were small communities, at least before COVID, that used to do events around open source. But these all existed in silos. They didn't talk to each other. So, unlike how open source should be, there was no collaboration happening. And yeah, of course, there was no platform for a FOSS developer or a contributor to talk about their work. A recent study by Harvard pointed out that the value of open source, the economic value of open source, comes out to $8.8 trillion. Now, this may sound like a huge figure, but anyone who understands a little bit of economics would realize that the fact that there is some code existing out there that you can just use anytime you want, and if you were solving something, you do not have to write something from scratch over and over again. That is just a huge economic asset, right? It is a very valuable economic asset. And they pointed out that while the demand is around $8 trillion, the supply side, how much open source we are creating, only happens to be around 4 billion. So there is a huge gap. A study done by IIM Bangalore, specific to India, pointed out that we can save $1 billion a year if we decide to just switch to open source. And I will share some examples of this. The National Law School is working on a study that looks at the modern day impact of FOSS in India. Zerodha, which we talked about before, they save tens of millions of dollars annually because their entire stack is built on top of open source. The IT at School project, which is now popularly called as the Kerala model, is when the government of Kerala decided to replace Windows operating systems in all the government schools and replace everything with Linux. They built their own distribution, they built their own packages, software for teaching students how to do chemistry, how to do calculus. They are now saving 300 crores every year because of this, just because they decided to switch to open source. Some more examples I'll skip in the interest of time. But this is something I really like. So FOSS in India can be understood as a broader extension of the Swadeshi movement. Because, the Swadeshi movement, how it started was that we wanted to sort of reduce our reliance on the Western products. FOSS is basically that. If we want to ever reduce our dependency on big tech or on just Western technology, FOSS is the only way out. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the former president of India, met Bill Gates back in 2002, I think. So, good 2 decades back. They were discussing stuff, and eventually the topic of technology came. And Dr. Kalam said that was a huge proponent of open source software. Bill Gates and Microsoft at that time was not, though they now claim to be, very open source evangelists. So they had a small disagreement. After that, he went on to a college and gave the speech where he basically said that the most unfortunate thing is that India still continues to believe in proprietary solutions. Just a small change in how these, in how this software works or the business model of these companies will have a huge impact on the lives of our, billions of people. For example, if WhatsApp decides to start charging you from tomorrow, so many people will just not know what to do, right? So it is precisely for these reasons open source software needs to be built in India for the benefit of our billion people. So what have we been up to? Since the last 5 years, we've had 20,000 plus participants across all our events. We've given grants of almost a 3 crore to Indian FOSS projects and organizations. We have featured over 100 new and 150 total projects. We have partnered with 30 plus companies from India to, take this movement forward. These are some of the programs we have. I will skip this. These are some of the cities we are active in. We have also set up clubs all over the country because the idea is to bridge the gap between industry and academia. And if we want students to start tinkering, the best time is to help them do this in college. Nobody has the time after they move out of college. These are some of the recent grants we've done just in the last 6 months or so. Some of these projects you may know of. Zasper is a 4 times better IDE than Jupyter Lab and has been trending a lot. We are also ecosystem partners with the recently announced FOSS Fund, which is a commitment to donate $1 million annually to global FOSS projects. I have been helping out with the outreach and evaluation. Just some basic details about the program. We are trying to distribute $1 million annually to global FOSS projects in a structured approach. So right now donations to FOSS are very unstructured. You use a project, you like it, you want to give back, you donate, and then you forget about it. This is a more regular structured approach. So I'm sure some of you know what OSPOs are, OSPOs, open source program offices. We have set up something what is called the open source funding office. The funding range of the projects are $10,000 to $100,000. We are sourcing applications globally. We've set up a discoverability mechanism, which I will talk about. And we've set up a selection committee to look into these applications. And we plan to outsource this process to the community. We want the community to take ownership of where these funds go. This is some of the organic reach that we've got sort of. This is the FOSS Fund portal if you'd like to have a look. I will also show you just briefly. So this is the open directory that we have. So these are the projects that have applied recently. So if you would look at say F-Droid, which is a popular project. This is what the portal looks like. You submit an application as an entity. You list down all the projects that you need funding for. You list down your funding plans, basically how much amount would you require, what would that donation go towards, what features would you want to implement, what are the tiers that your sponsorships have, and you can list down the funding history of your organization. So potential donors may have an idea of how of if you are actually an underfunded project or you already have a means of sustenance. All of this happens through the funding.json mechanism. So every project creates their own funding.json. The idea for this is to create a discoverability mechanism. For example, now how every project has a README, we are talking to GitHub to make this sort of a nudge so that every project can also publish their funding requirements, their projects, how to, where you can donate to them, because this information is right now really hard to find. Yeah, QR is here. Slides are on the schedule page if anyone is interested. Moving on, yeah, so funding.json, this, if you're interested and if you want to set up a similar fund at your organization to give back to open source, this is basically what the schema of the manifest looks like. We start with the entity, you list down the basic details, how to reach out to you, you list down all your projects, you list down all the funding plans that you may have, all your requirements, and then finally your history. There are some tools also that can help. So this is the open directory. There is also a live manifest validator. So for example, we created a manifest, and if you want to validate it, you just so if everything is fine, this should appear okay, which it should, because this application has already been submitted. And once this is validated, you can just submit it to the portal. So the idea for this is to also make applications easier, because right now if you have to apply for a grant, you have to write 5 to 6 pages of application, and then you get to hear back if you're even eligible, right? And yeah, yes. So yeah, if you're interested, here is the QR for the manifest. Last week we announced the first tranche of projects we funded. We distributed almost a little over $300,000 towards 9 global FOSS projects. The payments are still going on, but you will see some global projects here that basically all of us rely on today: OpenSSL, NTP, ImageMagick. So the long-term goals of the fund is that we want to contribute towards the goal of FOSS sustainability. Finally, in 2025, these conversations are starting to happen, and we genuinely feel that we can crack this. Open source does not have to be unpaid labor. People can get their time's worth out of their hobby projects. We will be setting up a public evaluation committee for the community to vote on what projects should get the support they need, and we will set up structures for other companies to be able to set up similar funds. Where does the open search ecosystem fit within all of this? One, of course, if you are building something using open search and you require support, a grant, or just a platform to talk about the work that you're doing, show up at any of our events, apply for a grant. We are conducting a conference later this year, which I will talk about. And of course, now that there are non-profit foundations, communities coming out of the open source ecosystem, I'm sure some of you would want to set up your own community, bring people who contribute to your projects, and have them give talks. So these are 3 takeaways from our learnings from the last 5 years of building communities. Moderation is very hard. Please focus at it. Volunteers are hard to come by, and they don't show up easily. So they are your most valuable resource. So please treat them as your most valuable resource. And with open source specifically, we've always been complaining a lot. There is not enough money, there are not enough resources, there is not enough time. But we found out that if you look at the right places, you will find all of these things. These are some of the organizations that support our annual activities. If you are interested in partnering with us on any of these efforts, please reach out to us. And we are finally conducting a conference later this year. This is the 5th edition of India FOSS, expecting around 2,500 people this year in person here in Bangalore at Nimhans Convention Center. If you're working on something cool, please submit a talk. CFP QR is here. CFPs are closing on 7th of June, and tickets are open if you'd like to attend. Yes, thank you for listening. That is it. Any questions? Cool. Yes. No, similar to how Linux Foundation does, we do not adopt projects, but this is something the governance board has been working on. We recently set up a governance because until now it was the full-time staff like me who used to do all of these efforts, but we've set up community processes, and one of the agendas this year is to work on a structure where we can adopt Indian FOSS projects and set up communities around it, get people to contribute.
So the ownership is still with the individuals, right?
So it is still in the works, but yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Cool. Thank you.